Okay, we're ready to get started here. We will call the meeting to order and move into our board meeting agenda for this Thursday. We have our pledge to the flag and mediation by Ms. Jill Hall of Daisy Elementary. We have our exemplars of excellence for Mr. Mashburn. The presentations there, Ed Connect presentation and Future Ready 2023. Also, move down to the consent agenda. Any questions about any of that?
I have a question in that order, which is I know we've gone back and forth, but we have some delegates, I saw an email today requesting regarding the agenda. Are those going to be placed in front since it's regarding what we're going to be discussed, or are we going to go ahead and vote and then listen to people tell us where they stand on some things? So let me put it differently.
Yeah, no,
I
see
think
what you're saying
if
now.
it's delegates regarding issues that we're going to vote on, I would like to listen first before we vote on those delegates.
Okay.
They're not there yet, but I saw an email today.
Yeah,
asking
no,
what
I've-
policies we're voting on.
Yeah. The one I believe that you, I'll work with Sherry on that because it's two different issues on that one. They're wanting to address policy on that and then also some other board
I
policies.
still get 5 minutes on.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then we will move that up before. Sherry, where would be the best place to put that?
If you're going to do it before policy, you'd have to do it before the consent agenda.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll do, we'll have that change amended to the agenda on Thursday.
Chairman,
Ms. Hill?
to that point, Thursday is going to be the last time I'm going to sit with you all because I have the wonderful opportunity to be taking my daughter to college the next Thursday we
That'd
meet.
be fun.
I know, praise God. So I would very much appreciate just to have a couple minutes just to say thank you to the board if I may.
You want to do that at the end or beginning?
I'd rather do it toward the beginning in the event that we've got a long meeting.
Perfect.
And she'll feel more likely to say thank you to us. For real? By the
If
end.
it's really long.
It's all downhill.
I'd be like, peace out.
Okay, so,
I'll put that before presentations. if that's
yeah, let's
okay.
do, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good
We'll put that with exemplars.
reality.
Mm.
Thank you.
I'll do it next month.
Okay. I'll try not to set a bar too
That's fine.
I know. Hey, everybody, thanks.
high. There will be interpretive dance.
There we go.
Well,
Yeah.
Correct.
I will not be dancing, so don't get your hopes up in August, folks. Okay, with that, we'll move down to the consent agenda. Anything under minutes, executive committee report, or field trips? See no lights. We'll move down to the chief financial officer. Anything under bids, contracts, financial reports, or budget amendments? Ms. Jones? I got you.
I just want to go on record at the agenda session, because I will state this on Thursday, that I will be recusing myself from the vote, the direct vote of AD1C, the memorandum of understanding for Head Start. I will be voting on the consent agenda, but I will be recusing myself from that particular vote.
Yeah. Look, Scott's not here. We'll have to pull that one.
You don't have to pull, I talked to him.
Oh, yeah, you
You
don't.
don't have to
Okay.
pull it, he told me
Okay,
just
perfect.
what to say.
Okay, perfect.
Scott will be here Thursday.
Right.
Yes.
He will be.
Yes.
But we can just make a note of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, he told me to state it today, and then what to do on Thursday.
perfect. Anything else under those? Okay, moving down.
Hey, Tucker,
Yeah.
just to mention, I was looking for it and I can't find it now, but where we're talking about the program in the detention center. For the, where did I miss? Where?
That is going to be under that on your contract.
D and E.
ADIE.
Okay. I just want to mention, I've seen that at work and how important it is. And,
It's a memorandum, it's under bids.
It's under bids and contracts.
Bids and contracts,
Yeah.
AD.
where, you know, kids may be in custody, and not just there, but also at Silverdale as well, if they're still students, and just how important that is. And we gotta make sure that continues to happen. That's all.
Okay, anything else under there? See no lights. Anything under Chief Strategy Officer board policies? We have 3 board policies up, first and final read. Ms. Hill.
Thank you, Chair. The final policy listed is Board Policy 4.403, reconsideration of instructional materials and textbooks. I appreciated some of the changes that I felt like were practical considerations. However, I wanted to, and since Scott's not here, that may be problematic, but wanted to consider as a board some of the timing that's listed within these policies. So right now, it's been changed from any other citizen to any parent who wishes to request review or reconsideration must make such an approval, a request in writing, and then the procedure for the complaint has been tweaked some, and it's been changed to the principal requests a review of challenge material within 20 working days by an ad hoc materials review committee. And one of the requirements that has always been within the body of the policy is in 7A, the challenge review committee will read, view, or listen to the material in its entirety. Given the recent experiences we've had, where we've had groups of people listing out, what, tens of 20s of books at a time, including middle school and high school level texts, I personally don't want to dedicate staff solely to reviewing books at a given school or learning community. I'd like them to be teaching. So I just want us to think about the reality of guaranteeing that something would be accomplished within 20 days. So if, for example, either that or putting a limit on how many books a parent or text or videos a parent can disagree with, we just need some kind of pressure release valve so that our time is taken care of as part of this, because we've seen a lot of aggrieved people that clearly we did not have agreement as a community, because the review community or review group that Rhonda ran did not ever come to any kind of agreement on what was or was not acceptable, et cetera. So does anybody else have concerns about how we, given that our job is policy, how we craft a policy that protects not only the quality of the materials in our schools, but also the operations of our schools?
If I
Yeah, Mr. Press.
I actually had maybe a different question on this that kind of goes along, but, and I don't know, my memory starts fading, but do we always vote board policies and consent agenda? Because we do, okay.
This is this in the consent? It's in the
Yeah.
strategic section.
No, it's
No,
under
it's
consent.
under
Oh,
consent
strategic
agenda.
is still
Final
chief
read,
strategy.
though.
Yeah, it's
Okay, because final read. even though we as a board did not see a first read, right, so
These
first
three
and
are,
final.
all three of these board policies are first
Okay,
and final.
so
So-
just for practice, because that's where, since Scott's not here, I just want to know procedure, because I mean, I think there's important considerations. I would like to hear, at the end of the day, I think this is the state is telling us what we have to vote on. I don't know what happens if it's like that one time that the state told us what we had to vote on, and then we had to come back and vote on it again, right? Like, if we happened as a board to, even as a statement, say we don't agree with one of these policies, or we would like some wording changed. You know, I have an issue with the word offensive because I'm offended by a lot of stuff. The older I get, the easier offended I get too. So, so anyways, what does offensive mean? Who determines what's offensive? How does the community determine what's offensive? Offensive is a very broad word. But if that's the word that the state is telling us to do, you have no choice but to accept that word and move forward. So anyways, Scott's not here. I feel I have questions about this, if it's possible. I guess it's not. I don't know. I don't know the process and procedure on this to discuss each policy separately. If not, I'll pull them on Thursday and discuss them separately as well. So.
Ms. Thurman.
Yes. Well, that might be a good thing. No, my feeling about this is if we follow 4.402, I need to revise, and the librarians and school administrators take it upon themselves to go ahead and let some of these books that are already on the shelf, a lot of this may not happen. They go ahead and remove some of the books that should be removed that don't match up with the policy in 4.402. We won't have to worry about 4.403 that much, in my opinion. Because in order to follow 4.402, some of these books are gonna have to go because they certainly don't meet the criteria set out by the state, so.
Ms. Jones.
I had a question about the board policy 4.403, line 37. I'm thinking that's right. No, yeah, line 37. It says any parents, and then of course, or other citizen has been removed who wishes to request review or reconsideration of the use. Okay, y'all can read, so I don't have to do that. I guess any parent of a Hamilton County school student, or any parent?
It says any parent. I don't know the least.
But I think my question is any parent, because, I mean,
Yeah.
my mom is a parent.
We'll have
Her kid is in the Hamilton County schools.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And some people are guardians.
Right. Or custodians, or guardian ad litems. And, I mean, what does that look like?
I think we'll ask.
Is it custodial figures, or, and then I think my biggest concern is of a Hamilton County school student.
Yeah.
Because this is Hamilton County school policy.
And do they have to be of the school that they are requesting a review of? Or can it be of any school in Hamilton County, even though they don't have a student in that school?
Yeah, I'd like to see that be made
You know,
more
just some
specific.
clarity there. It gets kind of murky right there, unless this is coming from the state. I mean, if it's coming from the state, I guess we gotta follow it. But I think that's really murky.
Anybody who once thought to be parent?
Tucker, don't we have to have this passed by the beginning of the school year, am I
Yes.
wrong?
Yes.
So we're gonna have to do this, whatever, between now and Thursday.
Well, we
Dr.
got 3
Robertson.
days. Scott get paid good money.
Dr. Robertson.
He got 3 days.
So, a couple things, back to Ms. Hill's original comment about the 15 days versus 20 days. We did add in there, because of exactly what you said, working days, because originally it just said 15 days.
Okay.
So 20 working days in our mind is essentially
You feel comfortable with
a
20?
month.
Okay.
And so, and I hear your concern, and that's a concern that we have about, you know, the quantity, and to Ms. Thurman's point, addressing 4.402 could help with that. I think that the intent on the line that Ms. Jones is mentioning was it for it to be a Hamilton County school guardian. in the school that their child is attending. If you read a little bit further, it says, material in the school, which I think the intent is to say, I can do it for my daughter's school, but I can't go to school XYZ and request a review when I don't have a child in that school.
I just think we need to make
I think
that
it
clear,
needs to be clear.
because
No,
I mean,
one
as
hundred
far as, like, the
percent. I think the
Hamilton
point
County
of
school parent-
y'all reading this and having these conversations is to poke holes in it and
Yeah.
make it clear.
Yeah,
So-
let's.
yeah, I
let's
think
make
that
sure.
piece is, I mean, I get, you're right, you can see that when you read on further about the actual particular school, but I think it needs to be clarified as to
And
the
from,
parent's scope of that.
But what I'm hearing is, ask Scott to clarify that it's a guardian of a Hamilton County
Yeah,
school
I would say
student
any Hamilton
in
County.
that school.
Yeah, and please say Hamilton County School.
I guess I add to that a concern.
Hamilton
and
County
that is-
Public School. School.
But,
That's
that
not clear.
the easiest thing when 4.402 happens is to just remove anything that somebody may someday be concerned about, right? And that may actually affect the quality of materials we have, right? So, because that does, I mean, we're all there at some point where it's like, you know what? Just don't put it on there, because someone's gonna complain, someone's gonna be offended. That's why the word offensive is so incredibly broad, because someone's gonna be offended. So just go ahead and remove it now, before they do it. I don't know how many historical quality books are lost in that sort of thinking. So I mean, but again, state's telling us this is their law. I don't know how much this is what the wording is the state's wording, and that's why it'd be nice to have Scott here. But I don't know how much of the wording is the state's wording or how much of the wording is our wording trying to apply the state law. So maybe what I'll ask is for the state laws, what I know.
It's a little bit of both. I mean, we had some internal pushback with Scott about, specific parts of this where, to be quite honest, I don't agree with what the state is saying, the wording of the legislation and what.
Because our
the
IB schools still are required to read some of these books, right? Like that's some of the.
I mean,
yes.
I go down 1,000 rabbit holes. I'm just saying that there are some things in here that, I mean, we pushed back with Scott. Scott's pushed back with the
With the state wording.
state. We pushed back with, the Department of Ed at the state level to say what is intended, what was said, and this is where we are. I mean,
Okay. I hear you. Now, if we all voted no, we'd still have to come back the next week and vote again, I'm guessing, from the last experience we had with that.
There are some positive changes within this policy, though. Changing the selection committee to be more clear, to be people within the same learning community, principal of a school within the same learning community. Thought those were smart changes. Like as I read through this, I did see that the work that Rhonda's that the committee did. I feel like while there was not consensus within that committee, I did feel like the staff heard some common themes that I see within this. My hope would be, even as I read the policies that are required by the state for us to implement, my hope would be that with a strong backbone, that our system will continue to be able to offer a variety of texts from different life experiences. I personally know that given the realities of the last couple weeks in America, that a book like The Handmaid's Tale is more relevant now than it was 2 weeks ago. So there's a lot we all have to learn from books that are hard to read. And hopefully Hamilton County Schools leadership will have the backbone to keep them on our shelves. I have, to Marco's point, I was speaking with some folks from another school district, Bradley County, and they're like, oh yeah, it wasn't a problem. We just took those books off the shelves before anybody complained. And I kind of felt a knife go through my heart.
Anything else on any of those three policies? Okay, moving down to the Board matters, anything on the Cigna building purchase?
That is basically the next step, moving the process forward. And we're just asking you for approval to allow us the purchase to progress.
I guess I saw the closing date was like September
Is it on?
22nd or 12th or something like that, something with the 2 in it.
Better do, it's been all over the news already.
We feel like it's ours already, but not quite there yet. I don't, do you have the closing date?
September 12th, yeah.
Is it on here?
I know there's an
Yes.
August 31st deadline of the LOI and.
Yeah.
September 12th is the set closing.
Perfect, that's exciting for that community and that growing school community.
Remind me again, the purpose is actually to split East Brainerd Elementary into no.
Yeah, I think that's the discussion that we.
That's the next
Right.
discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Okay.
that what we all agree on is the need right now is gonna be for elementary seats.
Okay,
How we do that is a discussion that the board's gonna have
that's
to
fine,
have.
that's fine. Okay, I just wanted to remember what.
Going down to Chief of Opportunities and Access, Dr. Parker, the new position request. Anything on that?
Which new position request is, sorry, I got sidetracked.
It's under Board Matters
Uh,
9B1.
Yeah, I know, but it's not, there's two new positions. You're talking about the first one, the learning.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, the first one, the
Okay.
first one,
Learning
yes.
acceleration lead.
So what we're requesting of the board, we received a $2.7 million grant for the 2021-22 school year. We'll receive another 1.6 for the 22-23 and another 1.6 for 23-24. We oversee 60 sites for the tutoring grant, and we need assistance with running and functioning those. We have one person in that department. So it is just for the term of the grant. It would be advertised that way, and when the grant is over, the position will be, will no longer be a part.
Anything on that?
Yeah, just
Ms.
what
Sermon?
exactly is this person gonna be doing? I mean,
So we have site directors for all 60 of those programs, and we have parents and community members that, we had over 5,000 families that participated in Summer Reach. We served almost 10,000 students in the during school program. So when there are questions, the programs need supervision, just like all of our after-school programs need, and with one person, we'd love to divvy up that responsibility for not only the curriculum, but the timing and the supervision of the programs.
do we have a list of, that you say 60, the list of 60 schools, or?
I can get that for
Okay,
you.
I would like to see that,
Sure.
please. Thank you.
Ms. Jones?
Mr. Chairman, for Ms. Neely. Ms. Neely, are those reach sites, do we have the staffing we need,
So,
top to bottom, I mean? Because I'm hearing all kind of things.
in some places, we were very well-staffed. In other places, we struggled.
Mhm.
That's just the bottom line. Here at the central office, there were a few things we needed to add here. Having an additional person will be a great benefit.
Mhm.
We will do an after-action review to find out which programs probably had a few more deficits than others, but this has only grown since we started this the very first
And
year. of
how many
COVID.
kids we have this summer?
We had close to 5,000. We'll get the final numbers. We just finished Friday, so we'll get all of the final numbers. But our point was to try to keep those ratios small, but in some places,
Mhm.
we struggled with that.
Mhm. Mhm.
I have to own it. We did.
So this will fix that?
It will be an additional person to help us give oversight to the magnitude of the program. Each specific site has to have enough of a staff and a crew to operate for the numbers of kids that come to that specific site. This position will give us oversight, some of the supervisory matters that need to be.
I visited several
Mhm.
because I wanted to learn what they were doing that maybe I could steal, And it looked like some of them, they were getting a lot done, and others weren't getting anything done because they didn't have enough human resources So, sounds like y'all are on top of that.
We're trying to be. We offered a
You
very
are.
competitive wage.
If you're involved in it, you're on top
Thank you,
of it.
Mr. Joe. We offered very competitive wages, but, you know, our teachers are tired.
They're tired.
It was a very extensive
Mhm.
program, rigorous.
Ms. Jones?
So I have a question about the sites that may have been struggling. I guess in your after-action review, will you all look at maybe combining some of those sites? Or, I guess, how are you gonna address, I guess, how do you plan to address that? Because I know that clearly everywhere that there was a site, there is a need, clearly, and it spans across the school, the county. So we know it's not in just a particular area. And I know that, as a result of the pandemic slide, now times 2, 3, I'm about to go in third year. Some families elected both sessions. And so I'm pretty sure that was a challenge as well at times too, to get staff all the way through the summer and then ask them to come back on August 3rd, I think it is. They come back August 3rd or 4th. And so, we know that that's a challenge, but, and competitive wages is great, but if you're tired, then you just have compassion fatigue and you're tired. And then I guess another concern I have is that, if you take the competitive wage, but you're not vested, because that has been a concern that has been expressed to us as well. I think everybody probably got a letter. I got a letter in the mail, about that. And so I guess what can we do to support, you, or I'm asking that after the after-action review, if you would let us know what we can do from the board realm to support that, because like I said, we know that it clearly is a need across Hamilton County. And students are still gonna walk into buildings in August and still have those needs that teachers are gonna have to support throughout the school year. So whatever we can do to support that, is clear, so that we'll know going forth how we can support.
Anything on the next position request, the homeless specialist? Ms. Hill?
Thank you, Chair. Just, Marcia, help me understand, we have a district homeless liaison for students, so this would work under that person. Why do we need additional
That
person?
is correct. So, our homeless population has increased significantly over the last couple of years, and it's across the district. So we currently have one person serving over 700 students across the district. And so as we expand our care closets, our food pantries, getting those food boxes to the students, those clothes, getting that transportation set up, all the things that we are providing to make sure that our homeless population of students are thriving. She would need this support, and this is grant-funded position here, so it would.
So we have 700 homeless
Over.
student, more
Over.
than 700 homeless students in Hamilton County schools.
Yes.
That's heartbreaking. Thank you.
Ms. Thurman?
Jeannie asked the same question I did. I just wondered who was doing that now and what if this person be working beside them, under them. I thought it was grant funded.
Right.
So how long was the
it's-
grant for?
So they would work under her in my department, but they would be assisting her with doing the things that she's currently doing. She works numerous hours. She flexes her time now because obviously to get the resources to these families and students, it's not necessarily from 8 to 3. So she's having to work on weekends. She's working in evenings. So her time is, it's split. And so this support would help her help our students.
Okay, how long is the grant for? It's ARP grant? I'm not sure what that stands for.
I'll have to get back with you on the length,
Okay,
the length of the grant.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Dr. Drake, how will it how will it be funded? I mean, once the grant money's run out, is that just something we'd have to absorb in our budget?
Well, yes, we'll continue to seek additional funds because, that population continues to grow. We have not seen a decrease
Oh, yeah.
since I have been in this position. It's continued to grow, in the years, so we would have to seek additional funding. We have received additional funding, so we've had the opportunity to expand the supports that we offer our students in these last couple of years.
700 kids.
Over.
That's heartbreaking.
All right, moving on, that will, that puts us to the resolution to condemn the comments from Mr. Larry Arnon. I'm sure everyone has been in the media, the news a lot about the comments that were made that were pretty disrespectful of our teachers, their education, their profession, and everything. And so I'm talked to other colleagues across the state. I'm on the Tennessee School Board Association's Board of Directors. Wilson County has done this. Several smaller ones, I think Clarksville, Montgomery has done this. The state board, I believe, is doing this. And so I thought, there's a time to do the right thing when it's hard and it upsets the apple cart or upsets the people that kind of hold the real power, may it be. And I thought this was one of those times where I would like to see the board kind of stand together and say that we respect our our teachers, that we believe in what they do, their education is important, and that they're true professionals in what they do. I think everyone on this dais and everyone in this room probably has someone that's a teacher. Happens to be my wife. Happens to be, I think, Mr. Perez's wife is a teacher. All of us have connections to teachers and know the integral part that they play in our students' lives. So read over it. I think you got an email from me, and it's in our agenda. If you have any comments on it, let you know. Ms. Thurman.
Yes, I did go back and read his comments. Actually, what he was doing, and it's really great to see how the news always wants to gin up a story and just really get everybody seems to be so hypersensitive anymore. He was criticizing the Department of Education, the National Association of Education Unions, and a number of universities with their accreditation programs. Not teachers per se. He was not talking about teachers. And I happen to agree with him on many of those. The Department of Education, I certainly agree with. And the NEA, AFT, he was voicing his opinion. I just don't really see where it's my job as a school board member to tell the governor what he needs to I think the governor should speak to a friend of his and tell him what he needs to apologize for. I don't want anybody telling me to go talk to a friend of mine and tell them they need to apologize. So if you want to talk to them, you go talk to them. Don't talk to me. If you want to criticize what he had to say, write him a letter. The school board's free to do that. The school board members are free to do that. But as a board, I just don't see why we are getting involved in this. It's the man's opinion. I've heard there's a lot of people from the NEA that have said a lot of things that have been very offensive to me. They've been very offensive to a lot of teachers, too, that didn't agree with their point of view, political view. And we don't write letters to them and say, you need to apologize to some of our teachers because you've offended them. I just really don't think this is not my place, so I won't be voting for it, because it's not my place to tell our state representatives or the governor what they need to do. I don't want them, I wouldn't blame them if they told us what we needed to do. But I just don't think it's my place to do that. Because, like I say, Mr. Arnn, if you have a problem with him, write him a letter yourself. But as a board, are we going to just stand around and wait on the heads of all these colleges? How many colleges are there across the United States that's going to say something offensive that we have to make a resolution? You know, like I say, I guess being on the board a long time is a blessing and a curse. But I don't remember ever doing resolutions about things, unless it's been the last 5 years or so we've done a few. But I don't remember ever doing one before, as a board, to speak as a board, to go after and tell people how we felt about something or something we wanted them to do. I mean, people can do that if they want to, but myself, it's not my place to do that. I'm not going to chastise the governor. That's not my place. Who am I to do that? And I'm not even going to talk to the state representatives and tell them what they need to do. Last time I checked, they were all big boys and girls, and they can do what they want, just like I'm going to do what I want. And I just don't think it's our place. You can do it if you want, but it won't be with my signature.
Mr. Smith?
Well, what Mr. Arn had to say was pretty sickening. But I defend his right to say it, as sickening as it was. And I really appreciate our superintendent, Justin, Dr. Robertson, because if you'll recall, when all that first happened, just a few days afterwards, our superintendent, he didn't say he was speaking on my behalf, but as I read it, I'm cheering because I agreed with everything he said, making sure that our teachers understood that we certainly didn't agree with what he had to say. But I tell you, I'm with Rhonda. I don't like the word condemn. I looked at the word, I looked it up, and it almost sounds pharisaical to me. And I don't want to become a Pharisee, but here's what condemn means. Sentence someone to a particular punishment, especially death. Now, what right have I got to condemn anybody? I can disagree with what they have to say. I don't like the language in this resolution at all. And if the language was kind of cleaned up and it just addressed what Dr. Ernst said, I could get on board with it. But I can't get on board with criticizing the governor. He has a right to think and do what he wants to do. And I certainly don't get on board with trying to tell our legislators. I think we tried that one time. Rhonda, you might help me here. But didn't this board, long before I came on, maybe did a resolution or a strong letter or something to condemn the governor and our legislators with regard to the BEP? Yeah, I don't think that got us very far, did it?
No.
So that's before my time, but I think this is unnecessary. It doesn't do anything. It's gonna be a piece of paper, somebody gonna put in their file somewhere. What the guy said was wrong. I don't agree with what he said, but I do agree with his right to say it. And I just think that this is nonsense and unnecessary. I mean, that's just where I'm at.
Ms. Hill?
Thank you, Chair. In the 4 years that I have been serving the people of Hamilton County, specifically District 6, I have found myself distancing from language that is extreme, because I find that it takes us further apart rather than bringing us together. That said, there are times, I think, when you stand up and when you just say enough is enough. The thing that is most disappointing to me about this discussion with the governor and Larry Arnn is that this is indicative of who the governor has around him and in his ear on a regular basis. And when you welcome, for example, a male chauvinist to your barbecue, and he speaks poorly about women on the regular, the likelihood, and you never speak up, it makes you a chauvinist too. So this guy has the ear of the governor, and I'm not okay with that. I disagree with my colleague, Rhonda Thurman, that it is not our place to tell the governor or the legislature to do their job. And I disagree with my colleague Joe Smith that it's inappropriate for us to criticize the governor. We are a democracy. Rhonda would clarify that we are a democratic republic, I think.
Absolutely.
We are a democracy, and a big part of democracy is conversation and people having an equal voice. And I think it's very important for the governor to hear from school boards all over the state, to know what we're seeing on the ground and how we feel about things. And for me as a school board member, I don't feel like that was an appropriate voice for the governor to have in his ear. And I would disagree. Do we need further rigor across all parts of the education ecosystem? 100%. Do we need to speak ill of people, even if it's over a glass of wine at a fundraiser or whatever kind of event they were at? No, I don't think so. Trash talk has no place in my governor's ear, I would hope. So I will be supporting this resolution, while most often I would typically say, what's the point? I think there is a point to this, and it's really important for our teachers to know where this board stands. And so thank you for bringing this to us. The language may not be perfect, but the point is there, and so I will be in favor of this.
Ms. Jones.
I agree with Joe that the language was despicable, and what Mr. Arn said. And I think about myself in the work that I do, and all of my peers and my community members in the work that they do. And I know that no matter what job we do, we've worked hard to get there. I think about Martin Luther King and his speech of, like, if you're going to be a garbage man, be the best garbage man you're going to be. I mean, you still put effort into that. If you're going to be a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper you're going to be. And for people, for professions like any profession where you earned a certification or a degree or several degrees, I think it would have to be respected. I wouldn't say, and I'm going to use Rhonda for an example here, but I wouldn't say that a kitchen tician, as my grandma called it, was more competent than a licensed cosmetologist, which is Rhonda. I'd never say that, because to me that would be an insult to Rhonda and my cosmetologist and all my friends that are cosmetologists. The same as I wouldn't want to say that a person who wants to do case management is more qualified than myself with 2 degrees, 6 years of experience, and a master's degree in social work. I think you have to provide and be respectful of the education and the process and the rigor and the tenure that people have put into getting where they are. So I feel like it was very disrespectful and very despicable. And people are friends all the time. I have friends that say things, and I call them on it. When it's wrong, it's wrong. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And is it freedom of speech? Yes, it is. Everybody has the right to freedom of speech. It's very ironic to me that some people have that right to freedom of speech and some people don't, based on who they are. Second to that, I think that while it might not be comfortable to hold the governor accountable, he's elected just like we are. And while it might not be comfortable to hold our state legislation accountable, they are elected to serve us just as we are elected to serve. And so I think in doing the resolution, just like we did one for vouchers one year, I remember we did that, and some people didn't sign it, that was fine. We went on with our resolution because that's what we're supposed to do as a school board. Like, we're supposed to present resolutions. We're supposed to take stands for things. We're supposed to show our community that we support them, and we're supposed to show our one employee that we support him. And I feel like in not doing this, we leave Justin out there by himself. And for me as a leader, I would never ask my employee to do anything that I'm not willing to do. And we didn't ask Justin to do this, but he's an educator by heart, and he was offended. And he works with people every day that have these degrees, and they were offended. And we just talked about offense. So once again, I think you can't pick and choose. And you have to stand for something. And whether it goes anywhere or not, I understand what Joe is saying. We could do it, it could hit the desk and then go into file 13, as they call it. You know, you can go right into the shredder. But we took a stand, and we went on record for taking a stand against something. And lastly, I have to say, it bothers me that we wouldn't want to collectively do this, because I feel like, what message does it send to the people that are on the ground, boots on the ground every day, doing the work that we ask of them, to turn around and just, to me, that's like a slap in the face. Like, we want you to teach, that's what you're supposed to do. You don't, we need to pay them, they're educated. I mean, it's like, when I was in college, the band used to have a chant, and they used to say, you're talking out the side of your neck. To me, that sounds like you're talking out the side of your neck. Like, you can't say that we're supposed to support teachers and we need to give them a raise, and we don't want to give administration a raise because we need to give it directly to the people that are doing the work, but then turn around and say, for the education that you have to do the work, it don't matter. What he said was right. I think that's just an insult. And so what message does that send to our teachers? What message does that send to Justin? And I really struggle with that. So I am going to sign this, because whether it goes anywhere or not, I was raised to believe in my very core that you stand for things that you believe in. And I believe in the teachers in Hamilton County and any other county in the United States, or any other teacher in this world. People go to college and they earn degrees and certifications for a reason. And just like I would stand for, just like I'm going to stand for our educators here in Hamilton County, I stand for any other profession that someone would try to demean, that they've worked hard to earn that license or certification to do. I just, it's kind of like blasphemy to me. Like, I just don't understand how we can say, oh, we shouldn't talk to the governor like that, when he can talk to us any kind of way. Oh, we shouldn't talk to the legislation like that, when they could at any time choose to talk to us that kind of way. And they have. They've told us what they felt like. I remember getting something from Marsha Blackburn and some other people like, we shouldn't do this. And yeah, we did do it for the BEP, Joe, and it might have didn't go anywhere, but we stood for something. And we'll go down in history as a county, good, bad, or indifferent, that said, hey, you're gonna do a BEP formula, fund it. It was a level of accountability, and I don't want anyone to have an expectation for me that I can't have for them. Now, I will say, because I oftentimes have been interpreted, or things that I say have been interpreted to be brash, I will say that we might want to reconsider or revisit the language for it. But I don't want to water it down either. I mean, I think there's other words that you can use, and I mean, I'm pretty sure if we looked up the word condemn, or we looked up the word, I'm trying to remember, there was another word in that I was kind of like, ooh. But I kind of was like, ooh, in a good way too. Like, yeah, like, just say it, get it out there. Let's be candid, and let's exhibit candor. But I cannot sit here on this dais and look out at these 6 individuals, or look out at Heather, or look out and Mr. King, who devoted numerous years and started out in a classroom. I think about Donna Horn, who I sit on the board with. Joe is on this board with me, Joe Wingate, and I don't know how he feels, but I'm not gonna say that Joe, I watched him get his doctorate degree. So I'm not gonna say that what he did is null and void, and that some Joe blow off the street could come and do it better, because I know the caliber of the work of Joe Wingate. And so I'm using you all as examples, and you feel however you want to feel, but that's the value I find in the work that you do. And I respect you for that. And so I want people to respect me for the work that I've done and the hard work that I've had to go through for my things. And I think we have to do that. And ultimately, we have one employee who supports, just how many employees you got now?
6,000.
6,000, right? And so if we can't say that we believe that was disrespectful to Justin, How can we say that it's not disrespectful to the 6,000 plus that he supports? So I'm signing it. Once again, only person I gotta give an account to at the end of the day is my community and God. But I'm signing it because I believe in the work that educators do, and I believe in the work that they put in to get the title of a certified teacher in the state of Tennessee.
Mr. Press.
Did mine not come up? Oh,
There it is. There it is.
Clear. Yeah, so I say a lot of stupid things. I think everybody would agree. And I've yet to know how many of them are recorded and going around in public. But I also apologize a lot. And I also recognize when what I said was wrong. And I don't gaslight others and say, you heard it wrong. Because even if I think they heard it wrong, that's what they heard. And it's my place in the midst of the many stupid things that come out of my mouth to recognize that they were wrong and to apologize. And time passed. And it passed, and it passed, and it passed. And nobody heard the apology. And therefore, Dr. Robertson sent a letter, thank you very much, because you spoke in your role of leadership regarding the people that you are there to serve and whose feet you are called to wash. So thank you. And we are here, I like that comment, Ms. Jones, and we want to stand or not, depending on our choice, by our employee, who we could condemn for his letter, or we could support for his letter, or we could join. I mentioned in the beginning of the agenda, without knowing this discussion, that I would like that people who are going to speak regarding the agenda speak first, because I've said this before, this isn't new, I'm not trying to build myself up. Fortunately, I'm not running for anything, so I don't have to for a couple of years. Then I'll be the nicest person on here. But it is my obligation in the role in which I have been appointed here to listen to people. This is why actually I've been getting texts like, what are you going to vote on? I don't tell people what I'm going to vote on in advance because it would imply that I'm not listening to anybody when they come and talk to me. Though I'm not going to lie, a lot of the times I think I know what I'm going to vote on and how I'm going to vote, but it would imply that I've got nothing to learn. And I'm here to listen and I'm here to learn. I'm concerned about the policies we're going to pass because more and more, I've said this too, I don't agree with this kind of leadership. I feel that the state is simply passing over the local community and telling us what they're going to do. And if you all recall, after we had so many discussions about the libraries and our books, Mary was sitting there. I said, Mary, am I correct? Like, basically, we're going to be told by the state what we have to vote on, and the state's going to, and she did, well, Mr. I mean, we can paint it however we want. But the way it's working right now is that the state is continuously and repeatedly coming to us and telling us, well, we don't really care what you and your community have to say about this. This is what you're going to do. And I actually heard those words from a representative whom I won't name. Like, basically, you're going to do what I say you have to do. And period. And it moves on. And the way a representative democracy and republic works is I am elected by a community to listen to their voice and to represent their voice all the way up the ladder, right? So, yes, I think the comments were just wrong and stupid. I mean, sorry, that's the word. And he has every right. I have every right. I make dumb comments all the time. We all have those rights. And I'm never going to take, I will fight for people's rights to do that. I will fight for people's rights to say dumb things. But I will also say that was dumb. as a statement. I condemn those comments. I think they are incorrect. I think they are not representative in any way of the teachers. I, like Tucker, am married to a teacher, and I saw what it takes to become one in the state of Tennessee. That ed TPA, folks, is not a laughing matter. It is, there's tension in families that are going through that process at the time. There's stress that comes from the 80-hour weeks for multiple weeks in a row for those who are hoping to join the career and profession of education. It is not anything light. It's not anything to be made light of. I have a general concern about why is this the road? Why are we trying to prove that anybody can be a teacher when that's false? But also, I personally think it's connected to the fact that it's becoming harder and harder and harder to find people in the pipeline. There's stuff about this anywhere and everywhere you look, and so instead of doing what we're going to have to do one day as a state, which is say, you know what, teachers are professionals and they're going to have to get paid professional salaries at the levels of anybody else in order for us to recruit and retain the top professionals in this field. We're trying to water down the profession and say, I think anybody can be a professional in this field. And I think that's awful, and we'll see where that takes us. But that's going to cost our community a lot. And Ms. Murray over there, I know, stays up at night worrying about that pipeline, worrying about the recruitment and retention of quality individuals into our school district. And we'll compete a little longer because we're one of the bigger districts, so we've got some pros in our favor that will allow us to pull. And more, what we're going to see in the state of Tennessee is a bunch of districts that just can't hire. They just won't get the teachers. And we'll stay for a while, for a few years, till we become the smaller fish, and then we can't hire, and we're gonna have to do what a lot of people don't want to do, which is compete for teachers. So anyways, I think that's where it all comes from, personally. I think it comes from trying to say, anybody can teach. No, they can't. And we contradict ourselves. Why are we requiring everything we require? So anyways, all that to say, that's a big speech, unnecessary, but it is my duty on this board, I believe, to listen, and it is my duty where others feel they don't have a voice above them to make that voice known. I think that's my duty. And as I have listened, not only to people who've contacted me and asked me, and as I have listened to the community through media, which yes, I agree with Ms. Thurman. One of the reasons I speak to media very little is because that 1 5-second thing, now all that's going to go around is Marco says stupid things. And that's going to make it, and I'm going to be famous for being the guy who says stupid things. And that's fine. That's what it is. That's what we sign up for, I guess. But at the end of the day, I listen because it does speak to what people are feeling often, and what people are feeling is incredibly, there's that word again, deeply offended at the comments, and equally deeply offended at the gaslighting of the response, saying, that's not what I said, that's not what I meant, I meant something totally different. Instead of just saying, I'm sorry, had a couple too many drinks maybe at this party, and I said something completely inappropriate, and hopefully the community will forgive me. That's not what happened. So, Tucker, that is bold. I thought it was bold of you to throw it out there. Maybe it's because you're on your way out, so you're really bold too. But, I thought it's, I know, that's a joke. Another stupid comment. Tucker, I'm sorry for what I said. Anyways, and so, yeah, whatever, wording, I don't care about wording, but in the end, I want to speak the voice of those that have spoken to me to somebody who many people feel isn't currently listening. So, it's my job.
Mr. Wingate.
Yeah, just quickly, I haven't seen much of what Mr. Arn said. I know that he said something. I saw how media reported that, and obviously the sound bites or the quotes that they use to write their story, which will always be those that will draw the most attention. And so I don't know all of his comments. I don't know from where he was coming, and I'm not trying to excuse those, because what I heard I did not agree with. But I think probably for me, what I struggle with is, you know, people in all professions in this climate and culture that we live in take a hit. I mean, I worked extremely hard for the education that I've received, but not any harder than a medical professional. And those folks were bashed for the greater part of 2 years. And, you know, again, I don't agree with Mr. Arn. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of intelligence to understand that not everybody can walk into a classroom and get students to engage in physics or biology or geometry and be able to communicate well and engage students well, and then also have intimate knowledge of the content to really be able to teach it well. And I mean, I'll take something as what some people would think is simple as coaching baseball, and there are plenty of dads at East Brainerd Youth Association in Middle Valley and Hickson that think they can coach baseball, and you just can't. You just can't. And you know, there's a level of disrespect to many professions. So I don't get as worked up about that part of it. You know, the disrespect or any of that. I mean, again, it's somebody's opinion, and we hear opinions all the time. One thing I would struggle with a little bit, I mean, I've heard some folks here say that, you know, we need to let these teachers know where this board stands. Guys, if our teachers right now don't know where we stand on how we feel about them and how much we value them, and with what we've tried to do here in supporting teachers in this district, then I don't know what would help them understand that. And I guess I'm just at a place where, and I've tried to be this way since I've been on this board, but I'm just not interested in a political moment. I'm just not. I'm not. I have no agreement with anything that this guy said from what I've seen. But at the same time, you know, my job here is to try to help this school system, support this school system to a level where it can add value to our county, and it has done that at some level historically in the last 6 years. And I'm not interested in a resolution. I'm just not. I'm interested in this board doing the work that we need to do. There are going to be people like this from now until whenever. There just are that make statements. And, you know, whether the governor's listening to it or not, now, if our governor wants to begin to pass laws, wants to try to enforce policy around the state or procedure that now is reflective of this type of attitude and worldview around education, absolutely. I'm all about let's begin the process of drafting whatever we have to draft to make sure that any and all know in our state that we're not going to support that, and our community's not going to support that. But just I don't know. I just struggle with words. I struggle with words. I want to see us take action as we have continuously to support our teachers, support the school system, see it to continue to improve, and I just struggle with drafting a resolution. That's just where I am.
Ms. Thurman.
Just one more thing. I appreciate Chris using me as an example. I just want to know everybody's an example, even if they're bad ones. So I appreciate you using me for that, but still don't get the deal. But that's okay. I mean, I think it's hilarious, actually. So that's okay. I know,
And I'm offended.
I'm a bad example usually. I was just kidding, Carissa. It's okay.
But I'm
That's
offended.
all right. You're offended.
Oh, I'm offended.
I'm not surprised.
Because,
Did everything I say offend you?
no, I'm not offended by everything you say, because trust me, if I was offended by everything we're not going to have that conversation.
No, we're not.
But nevertheless, I want to say this, and I see where Joe Wingate is coming from. I do want to go on record for saying I don't have political moments. My moments become things. Well, first of all, I don't create moments. I say how I feel, and they become moments for other people. But I do, and you're right. If they don't know how we feel by now, that is a good question. But in lieu of the climate of our society, and in lieu of what's happening in public education, and in lieu of what is going down behind closed doors and in our faces, in our state, we are headed, we'll do this resolution. If it doesn't pass today, we'll be right back to do what you just said, because it's headed that way. That's the plan. We've heard that from TSBA. We've heard it from the governor. And so if it doesn't happen today, and you know, that, I mean, I yield to the pleasure of the body, but I don't think this is the last time we'll be having this conversation, because that is the desire of our current administration for the state of Tennessee, is to go a different route with education. We know that to be the case. And that's not from a media clip, that's from him himself, and the body of work that is coming forth. So, I mean, I yield to the body, and because we are one at the end, and we have to support, but I think we will be revisiting this conversation again.
Ms. Hill.
Thank you. Something that Mr. Wingate said just made me want to bring one more thing up. You know, Joe Wingate said that when the time comes that the governor is doing things that we think are inappropriate, or I'm now putting words in your mouth, but at a disservice to students or at a disservice to education, would that be kind of like the fill in the blank?
When we get to a point where corporately as a state, the state is trying to dictate those things, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that just made me think about something I haven't brought up tonight, but is weighing heavily on me. Because it's one thing to change the way that we educate, and things are going to change, and I'm very open-minded to that. But the level of dignity and respect, like in this example, like as I've gotten older, I'm one that I've learned to gossip less, to talk less trash about people. It's just like you grow up, right? And you become a nicer person, hopefully. This Arn guy doesn't seem to have learned that lesson yet. But it does make me think about, what is it? Fish rot from the head, snakes rot from the head, that if this is the kind of chitter chatter that's happening, and we saw it with Cassida, I mean, just ugly stuff happening at the state, that we've got to be watchful. And I have a very heavy heart as I see this first policy come down that is targeting trans students. And I acknowledge that there is a complexity there because of sports, but it seems to me that the TSSAA has been managing the rules around our sports, and I think that could have been a policy set by the TSSAA versus the state. I think the state stepped in. And I've already seen in my schools students who, not by this particular policy, but by some of the bathroom policies, dressing room policies, have been genuinely devastated by this kind of legislation that targets trans students for what I think is fear, a fear-based system. Some people would say it's hate-based. I think it's probably because people are just really frightened about something that's different than what they know. But I will not be voting for that policy. And I do think there is going to come a moment where this board and other boards are going to have to decide if they're going to stand up and enforce some of these laws, or if they're going to say, do what you will, I will stand in the storm. But when I heard what had happened to a student in one of my schools, and the way that their joy had been ripped from them, and the way that their fellow students stood up for them, and there was nothing that we could do when the principal called our attorney, because this was what the state said. It was not the right decision. It's a bad law. just because something has been deemed legal does not mean it should exist. It doesn't mean it was a good law. And there will come a moment when this board will have to say, take our money, do what you want. We will not stand and put into place unjust rules. And it ain't gonna be a resolution that's gonna get us there. It's just gonna be standing up, and if enough people stand up, perhaps regular children all around our district, regardless of where they are with their sexual gender identity, will feel safe and cared for and cherished.
Mr. Smith.
Be glad when we can get to the point where we can talk about math and literacy and
Amen.
educating our kids. I mean, this is just another divisive issue, and it just seems like we spend so much energy on talking about divisive things instead of literacy, math, and educating kids. So I just be glad when we can get back there.
It would be great if the state would let us stay there and just focus on those things.
I'll finish up this conversation. I've heard the term, heard it once today, and I've had several phone calls today about it, about politically motivated or political moments. If I was good at political moments, I'd probably be going to another office than not being elected at all. I'm not. It's just not who I am as a person. One quote I live by and really has kind of led me through my school board journey. John Adams, always stand on principle even if you stand alone. And if I'm the only person that signs this resolution, so be it. We'll send it to the governor and he'll laugh at me and throw it in the trash. But we're an employer of Dr. Robertson, and Dr. Robertson's over 6,000 employees. Over half of those are teachers that have went through education to become teachers that focus on the reading, the math, the science every single day, that are experts in those subjects every single day. And I would guess if Volkswagen had someone come out and criticize their workers saying that their trade was useless and worthless and everything, that their leadership would they can't do resolutions, they're not a government entity, but send out a very strong statement rebuking that. One thing that I was often told when I got on the school board is, you need to run the school system like a business. And this business has 9 bosses that employ one boss that does the day-to-day, or the board that does that. If I was a business leader and had a segment of my workforce insulted, I would stand up because, frankly, I don't care if you're a Republican or if you're a Democrat, it's the right thing to do. And no one, I think silence tells the whole truth for a lot of people. And against my better judgment and what my wife tells me, I never shut up. And so I'm always talking, and it gets me in trouble because when stuff like this comes up, and y'all have seen me do this as board chair, I don't like sitting idly by while something happens. I believe we have the duty to let our teachers know that, yes, if they don't know that we support them as a board, we have done everything we can to make that known. But when things come up like this, we have to be the first ones there to say it. And to echo our support for this. So I think this resolution, if the board wants, we can clean up language. That's totally fine. This is actually the resolution, just with a minor tweak or two, that Wilson County, which is a Republican-controlled school board, now passed last week, to give you some context of where it came from. And then, like I said, the state school board is doing one that's much longer than this. I believe they vote on Friday on So I just leave the board. We'll make your final decision on Thursday. But I would say, at the end of the day, we have 6,000 people in this community. Over half of those are teachers trained in their education. Let's show them that we support them. And I will say, to the point of this becoming law, this man might have 30 charter schools for profit coming into our state. I think that's kind of been squashed now, but that was where this was headed, was 30 charter schools. And charter schools are fine with me. I don't have a problem with them when done right. But this wasn't just some guy that was at an event with Governor Lee. This was something that was going to be into our state education system, that we would probably have one here, or two here, or whatever else here. And that's just not okay with me. So I'll leave it at that, and we can move on if there's nothing else. Okay, moving on. Discussion for request of funding for facilities. Another place I've just not quite on, facilities. This is following up on our conversation. I've had a lot coming. Jenny, when was that? April we had that discussion? Just as further discussion on that, we don't have to do anything. I know the item was tabled, frankly, back in April, and just bringing it back for any other discussion on that, and hoping, because I know there was several discussions that we needed to have, and then maybe have those conversations later on or something in August for us to move forward with. So if we had any other thoughts, I know it's been a while that we've had this discussion. So Ms. Thurman.
While we're talking about facilities, have we thought any more about having a facilities meeting? What are we waiting on the new board to get seated? What are we actually waiting on? Also, I would like to know, I know that Tyner is up and it's going to be bid. About how much money do we think that's going to cost? Do we have some kind of a number about what that's going to cost?
So the estimate still is somewhere in the range of 76, 77 million.
Okay, still there, okay.
And again, to your point though, that has not gone to bid. That's the architect putting
Okay.
a reasonable number on it.
Okay, just in the ballpark there. Because I know there was a bond passed, was it 90 million?
Which one are you?
The one that this money's coming out of, it wasn't just for Tyner, correct?
It was
Well,
Tyner Mitchell.
Yeah, this money is actually, remember, 40 million of it is coming from ESSER dollars.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then the county is pulling it from not the 2000, what was it, 17? That bond money is done with CSLA.
Okay,
I think the county's portion is coming from a bond issue they did for something separate. I would have to get with
well, I know
Mayor
that at one
Coppinger.
point, when they said the bonds were paid off, that it had to be renewed to use for another school at one point. That was, I don't know if it was a gentleman's type agreement with the county. This is why we need to have a facilities meeting. I'd like to get all that straight. I know that there's going to be a meeting with some people tomorrow with the mayor, trying to get all of this straight, I guess, before he goes out of office, to kind of try to facilitate and see where the money is. That's what I would like to do, to have a facilities meeting and get the money, how much money is going to be available, because Saudi Daisy Middle School is going to have a new school.
Right.
And so I just want to know what we're looking at, the time frame, how much money is going to be available, and that kind of thing, to know where we go from here.
It's my understanding that the money for that bond was for the new county jail, Tyner, and then maybe one other technology. I'd have to look back, but it's $90 million. I mean, the
It was
county
90
has
million.
spent that $90 million.
So it's already 90,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it was, majority was, I think,
But
30.
there were some other bonds, and I can't remember which bond it was that they had, that they said that money would have to be renewed, when it was, that they could renew it, but it would have to be spent on schools, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think is coming up in the next year to 18
Okay.
months, an opportunity to issue some new bonds. So
Okay,
if
that's
you,
what I'm
like,
wondering about.
I can't remember when we talked about this, if it was back in December or January, but, and this is just my opinion. I think the conversation needs to occur when the new mayor has been seated, new school board has been seated and new county commission has been seated. In my opinion, and I've talked to several of you
Okay.
about this, is that I think that the school board needs to appoint or select one representative. The county commission needs to select one representative, and we need to meet in a small group with the mayor to come up with some details and put out at least some ideas. Right now, I think one of the confusing things is the MGT report. We're through phase 0. We're stepping into phase 1, but there's 300 and I think $50 million worth of projects in phase 1, which we know that's not going to
That's not
happen
gonna
with
happen.
one bond issue. And so, in my opinion, reason I've been waiting is I feel like we've got to wait for the new
Okay.
boards to be seated, find a representative, meet with the new mayor, and discuss how we move forward from there.
Okay.
I think that's kind of where we left it last time, because
Okay.
we're going to have at most 7 new school board members, 5 automatically, and then commission's having 7 more, new county mayor, all that. So I don't know if the discussion right now warrants
Okay.
when in a
So
month
we'll just
and
wait.
2 weeks you're going to have all that new. Trust me,
Okay.
I'm all for a facilities meeting.
Okay.
Ms. Hill.
Well, if Rhonda's naming names, I will say that District 6 has Normal Park Elementary, Normal Park Upper that are both listed in Phase 1 of the facility plan by MGT that need to be replaced and are key to a domino effect within that part of this district that desperately needs care. Regarding the discussion of requests for funding for facilities, I would make a motion on Thursday to bring this back onto the table. I think that the timing is great for it, and I would also make a motion to change that from a request for $10 million to make it a request for $20 million, because why not go big or go home? And that gives them something to edit. That's my 2 cents.
Those changes can be made on Thursday, of course.
Yep, I do that on Thursday. Just giving y'all a heads up.
Okay. Anything else on that for facilities? Okay, then we have our delegations. Per Mr. Perez, we will have an updated agenda with delegations speaking prior to anything on the agenda up there. Legal services report, and then you have your event announcements. Anything on any of that? Okay, that will put us into the vision setting activity. Is this for the new strategic plan? Okay. I'm just wondering, is that necessarily?
We're gonna do the whole strategic plan tonight? Is that the plan?
Because me and Jenny won't be here, so I didn't know.
No, yeah, we know that you won't be here, but you have such a wealth of knowledge and experience that I think that your voices are really important.
That's fine with me.
And it will not be a long period of
Perfect.
time, so I will move us forward quickly, but just sort of tell you where we are in the thinking around strategic planning. You guys know Dr. Robertson, when he started, did a transition committee. We got all those recommendations, so we've already had these massive input cycles, and now we're heading into this next kind of iteration of it. And I think for us, we want to hear your voice early and then hear your voice continually. And so that's what today is going to be, and it will be brief. So in front of you, you have 3 cards. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take you through just your own brainstorming, 3 different ideas that I want to have you put down. Tomorrow, our senior leadership, our extended senior leadership is going to do a similar activity, and we're going to start to synthesize some of these ideas, and then they'll kind of come back to you in a few different ways. So first thinking, and this is just your first thought for you all, 1 word on your pink card. Take your pink card. What's the 1 word that if we were starting to think about strategic planning 2030, that you would hope would be said about who we are in 2030? What's 1 word that you would like to be used to describe who we are as a school district in 2030? When you're done with your 1 word, will you just set it up on top so I can see that we're ready to move? 1 One word.
I spelled my name wrong. I mean, my, no,
You're supposed to put your,
no, I didn't put my name on it, but I spelled my word wrong. It was a hard word.
well, you should have looked at the Webster's app. What you looking
Don't
at?
you argue at her.
So one word for who we are. Who are we in 2030?
No, she didn't say anything about your name.
I know.
My name is, I'm gonna be the smart people.
Oh, I wrote it on there. Sorry, I misspelled it.
What did you
And then we wonder why our kids are struggling.
I don't know.
It's amazing.
We're all
You
in
didn't go
process.
to the same thing as me.
I went to both.
All right, on your yellow card, this is your hashtag. What are we known for? It's 2030. What are we known for? Hamilton County Schools is known for what?
That was like the same question.
Who we are is our essence. It's
What
kind of
are
our
we known
character,
for, or
our
what would
soul.
we like to be known for?
What do we want to be known for in 2030? No, in 2030, we're
What would
looking
we like
ahead.
to be known
Is that
for?
one word?
No, it's just a hashtag. Hashtag could be, you know.
Can we just put that? We are Hamilton, because we will be Hamilton.
You don't know that. You
Yeah, I was
know
gonna say,
nothing. You'll be governor by then.
Who we are, what are we known for? So yellow is what are we known for? I'm super curious. I'm excited to get
And I'll
this
be
card.
ready.
Oh, wait.
Are you sharing their cards with us tomorrow?
So the last,
The
the
black
last
one is me.
one.
Okay.
Well, I'm
Just
waiting
know.
for one. Yeah. Okay.
You
The
want me to
last.
write one for you?
Don't do
Good
that.
hashtag. My best friend came up with my wedding hashtag.
I don't allow
You
that.
said you're good. Oh, you are.
I'm not good at hashtags.
You are putting Dr. Stewart's classroom management strategy.
Yes,
to the
sure.
crossroads.
I would use proximity, but you
We're
know.
gonna see how long before she's finally logged.
Maybe we would
Well, depending on who's
Have to
judging,
implement
depending
the code of acceptable behavior on
That's
a few
right.
of you.
That's right. Looking for president. Last thing on the blue card. On the blue card, I want to know about the profile of a graduate. What do you want our kids to know and be able to do in 2030? And I think the best way to do this one is multiple words. You know, you want them to be knowledgeable. You want them to be service oriented. Just list a bunch of those kind of. Who are they? Who are those kids coming out of Hamilton County? As we think about a strategic plan, we center our children. What do we want our children to? Who do we want them to be and be able to do?
I think mine's the best. I won.
Everybody thinks that about their own stuff.
just
Oh,
wait
you're
till-
such
Just
suck
wait
up
till you
your
read
ass.
mine.
So as some are finishing up, I am going to invite you to pick one of your cards to share. So we're just going to go down the line and you're just going to share one of your, something off of one of your cards, and then I'll collect them.
Ms. Jones.
I would like for our graduates to be well-rounded, real world ready. I put civically engaged, but service-oriented or community engaged. Professional, intelligent, articulate, and lifelong learners.
Thank you.
I can go now. I also picked the blue one, and I put, our students will be world changers, they will be capable, they will be kind, and they will be optimistic.
Thank you.
Told you it was the best one.
I'll go. I did Estelle Kritz's well-rounded, lifelong learners, and then I put workforce ready, either college or vocational.
Thanks.
I'll go next. I want them to be able to read on grade level, number one. Know American history, have a good work ethic, and have skills to get a job.
Thank you.
I want our ready graduates to be assertive problem solvers. I want them to be critical thinkers. I want them to be confident and curious. I want them to know how to manage their finances. I want them to know how their bodies work and how to avoid pregnancy. And I want them to know their goals for the next 3 to 5 years after graduation.
Thank you.
I'm gonna pick the pink card, because I don't think anybody else did. That's a pretty tough question.
It is.
My one word was literate.
Thank you. All right, if you guys will just leave those, I'll gather them up and we'll, you guys, this will come back to us in a couple different forms over time. So thank you.
Okay, next we have the Tennessee Ready Data Release Overview and Timeline Update.
So this is real quick. You saw this a week before last, but it was the week of July 4th. And so just to make sure that we answered any questions that you might have and that we provided some context clarity and make sure that we're doing this with candor. When we talk about data, we're going to talk about those 3 words, the context, clarity, and candor. And so this press release was meant to provide that for the community. The context of it obviously is this is the first release. There'll be 2 more. The dates are on there, July 25th and August 15th. So until August 15th, this isn't technically official, but this is the first snapshot and glimpse at it. That's typical of what happens, right? I think it's important also the context to think about the year that we've been through. In December, I told you one of the biggest concerns or maybe even fears that I had is that as a district we would get complacent, right? And that the second semester was extremely important for us to focus and move forward. What I will say is that I think our teaching and learning team has done an exceptional job. Our school leaders have done an exceptional job of keeping a focus on student achievement. Our teachers have been tremendous, and that's why you see some of the gains. So clarity, we try to present this in a way that is just very concise and to the point and gets around, doesn't go into all the weeds of it. And so hopefully this is really clear. And then the candor of it. We have made some gains, right? We've made some progress in a lot of areas, but to be candid about it, we know that we've got work to do. Specifically, we see math as an area that we need to improve, right? And the context of that is that we have a math adoption coming up. And we've seen gains in the ELA because of the way that we have implemented a new curriculum that's high quality, that's focused, and that's being implemented with consistency and fidelity. We need to do the same thing with math coming up. We've started setting aside dollars. When we did the math or the literacy adoption, I think several years ago, I spoke to the board at the time about in the past how we didn't have money to actually adopt what we wanted to adopt. So we've been setting money aside to make sure that when that math adoption comes up, that the funding is there to get the right math adoption, right? And so that's some of the candor. We also see that in some areas that the state has kind of shrinked the gap between where we were with them last year. And that is a challenge for us to continue to move this work forward. So don't want to go into too much detail, but just because of the timing of when this was released, again, being the week of July 4th, wanted to make sure that we talked about this, that we answered any questions that you may have, and that we just went on the record to put this out there again. Any questions?
Ms. Thurman?
Oh, just this math score down, difference from the state, 10%. That's pretty sad right there. Also, down on the math algebra 1, wow, 21% is dismal, and then we even did worse than that. It's pretty sad. And over on the science, the first page, that's pretty bad too. The math adoption. I know we were doing a couple of pilot programs with Singapore math. How's that going?
We
Singapore
had,
math?
yeah, we did about 4 years ago, had some schools that were utilizing that. I don't,
How? No, when I remember having this discussion with Jill Levine, they were using it. How did that go? Did it not go?
Ms. Thurman, I can find out information for you, but
Are we even looking at that for our math adoption?
Well, what we will look at is what will be the state will provide us a list with approved vendors and approved sources, and we will go with what they provide for us.
Well, I'd
Remember
like-
that part of the state narrows down a list
Yeah,
of
right.
options for us, and so when we get those, we'll go through and look at those options. I know what you're talking about, the
Yeah.
Singapore math. It was 4 or 5 years ago, and there were 2 or 3 schools. We can
They were,
dig
I didn't know
into
how
that.
long they were gonna pilot it. It was
Yeah.
gonna be a couple of years, because you can't tell anything in just a couple of years, I
Yeah.
guess, from that. And I just wondered how that went.
I can
Well,
get some data for
yeah.
you, but it's been a minute since we've worked with that in any of our schools.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we need to look at it.
Ms. Jones?
Will we be able to obtain the scores for our individual schools?
When, that wasn't part of this release public.
Right.
And so we'll, when that is, yes, we definitely will do it. We'll do it the same way we've done in the past, to break down a district. We'll do a breakdown of learning communities and then down to the school level as well.
So the numbers that are currently out are not up to date?
No,
They're close. They're pretty close. We're not expecting anything to go up or down more than 2%, and 2% is a lot. But
Okay.
they're close. This next release should be confirming those. The third release is around growth.
Okay.
Ms. Hill?
Thank you, Chair. Justin, you alluded to this, but I just want to make sure I understand and put a finer point on it. Our ELA fourth grade went up to 43%, where our ELA third grade is at 36. So what that says to me is that the ELA curriculum we implemented in those students' third grade year is paying off in grade 4. Am I understanding that correctly?
yeah, and, you know, I would point out, if you flip over to the second page and you look at the third grade in 2021, and then follow that cohort in fourth grade,
Yeah,
right,
that's what
which
I was
is the
looking at
blue.
on page 2.
That's a significant area of growth, and so, and again, going back to the adoption of ELA, remember we
Right.
piloted
Yeah.
several years, and then there was question about, do we fully implement? We decided, which is a brave decision, right? And the payoff is there. I mean, we would expect as years go on that you're going to continue to see
Yeah.
elementary kids. Next year, I guess you would have a third grade cohort that would have had possibly in kindergarten, but for sure first and second grade, the new
Okay.
curriculum. And so we anticipate that that's going to continue to move forward.
Okay. You know, the question about what's that one word, I went with exemplary, but the first word that I thought about was consistent.
Yep.
There was an article in the paper today about a rural school, poor school in Alabama that has had just tremendous academic gains. And of course, you read it wondering what's their secret sauce. Well, it's student success planning. It's exactly what we're doing. We have so many great tools that we're implementing. We need the fortitude to stay focused. I mean, fortitude as a board, to not get distracted, and to just keep pressing with these solid tools that we're implementing, it sounds like.
Yeah, if
I mean, I'm disappointed, like everybody is. These are flat overall, but
yeah.
to see what we can learn from this.
Well, to see what we can learn, and again, I think that we've talked about this a number of times, and when Dr. Stewart presented the, academic press and personalization framework, we talked about that a lot of the work that we've got to do right now is just dirty,
Yeah.
grinding, hard work. What we talk about this, and it mentions it here, what got us to this point isn't going to get us to where we want to go, and a lot of the work that we need to do to get there is not the headline, put a big article out there work. It is consistency, it's quality, it's intensity, and it's all those, QFIC that we talk about with school leadership, digging in to that work. I wish y'all could have been with school leaders today and Dr. Stewart presenting to them and talking about the laser-like focus on the work that we've got to do, and not having, a shotgun approach, but schools picking one or two things that they're going to focus on, and the district team and the leadership team and the teaching and learning team, when we go into schools, know, okay, school A is focusing on, high-quality texts, on grade level texts, and that's what we're looking at, that one thing. We're not looking at 6, 7 indicators. It's 2 or 3 indicators. And so I 100% agree. We've got a lot of good things going. We've got to stay focused, and we've got to continue to do that work.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Press.
So of course, 8th grade stands out. 8th graders have not had a normal middle school experience at all, right? So they are graded on a very poor experience in a time that I think most of us would agree is like not the most favored time to be in school, right? That middle school period. So I just want to, encourage you as you're looking. I feel sometimes, we're very excited about high schools and celebrating a ton of stuff that's happening in high schools. We're very excited about our elementary schools. And maybe this is a great opportunity to really, really get excited about our middle schools and raise those and lift those up. Build them in sports for even us non-sporty types, build them in music, build them in many other things that just encourages them throughout the hardest years of their lives, really. And then when you hit your late 40s, that's the other hardest years of your lives. But anyway, so thank you all. Yeah, it's going to be just grinding now, but those years, I think, if I can encourage you to really give them extra focus, because we need to raise those up as well.
When do we go to the A through F scale? Is that this year or next year?
It's this year.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
And it'll publish in October.
All right.
So as we get closer to that, we'll certainly have time with you all to make sure we all have a clear understanding of what that is. So that's
Okay.
coming
That's what I figured. Thank
this
you.
year.
Okay, anything else? Okay, that will adjourn us. See y'all Thursday.